conversation by dialing 0911 or 22986 a text message on 13986. You can also stream these broadcasts live by logging onto our website iRadio.org. Follow us on Facebook and X at iRadio Juba, and do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel iRadio ساوث السودان. صباح الخير مستمع راديو، اهلا ومرحبا بك في حلقه جديد من برنامج الدون اليوم الاربعاء الموافق 19/11/2025. البرنامج يجيك في عمل اسبوع من الساعه 6 ل 8. شارك معنا بعدين بالاتصال لارقامنا او رسل لنا رساله نصيه. تابعنا على الانترنت على الموقع iRadio.org، على الفيسبوك واكس iRadio جوبا، وما تنسى تتابعنا على يوتيوب شانل iRadio ساوث السودان. فاصل ومنه فقره بتاع ريزيدنس ريبورت.
It's the break of a new dawn, and this is the dawn on iRadio.
iRadio.
Hello.
Yes.
Sabalik.
صباح النور. سلطانة ماما ماريا.
Ayuwa Sultana Mama Maria. Sultan Joseph Gumpo. Baby Mabo Gumpo Kalambika Sokon. Yenu Sukalama Al-Hagida. Banjang Poso Nusita Abujan. Katara Eta Wen. Foni Gum Arfu Kalam de Katan. Elita Dakal to Wali Muskilade. Yala Muslimin Kula Kutu Adam Gasu Maeta Kini Payam Mukaya Payam Mukobuma Daki King Line account. Emmanuel Anna Murtahin Anna yani marum na bamun sunu ayani na der na gaenu waniga mare es anna silbakeru mangata ataku de keliji bajan ataku de kulumun tipa gugale akutai ya es anna abutan anna der awal bismillah anna der security din morwai Nimorejinin another musasfaden kuli sokol bekun tamam kuli sokol yakun sa kuli wodile nasa dawa kuli ilajo iyal kula mulu iya haja kula de iyal de muswan alge wala dudel muswan ko barde der ilaji ya Emmanuel ya waledi numero talata nader madar kuli kun tamam kulima dakalu na fainali ya ga mulukina madarsa da gulu madarsa sankali iyala agara adnas kubar jatu fainali su kerinde kuluma nagara inali kubar da mata kalam anna bayan iyalka inali ya agara den da gudu mu to madarsa wannan da ke bulisa na gidur da afaya de numero 4 ya Emmanuel kuli jibul refugee kullu na kula le barakali kulina fere estipa ma waneda gale na sanna de reeso abutai kuliji kuna sulewa kulira jawona sule tujunu kulira jawona sule sanna sule ba mu sunu ba mu jira ha jira de ya aksan asanna barabinu inna barabinu biyuda al kasuru al burjulude anna ya karabu wa anna bara sala ko wo nasa al galumon na farabul de kuluma nasuma aswata nasa jurudina de kore de umon jurudin umon mana sal jamil barak kulumon kutu selafu ata kulumon rija kulumon jare iskelim galu amulo apule iyazol al tala bara ube jalan wutala ube ati zol de kelirija ha wo tani asli hamanyan fi jurudin fi motani asli hakulu fi idata motani hukuma jatu maendo asli haliye motani in kelire esamul saysa to ma motani to kelili mu asli hame ke makaje ta hukuma asambe sakal sokol ta hukuma asli hade da mulu ga am gisuma naku fi hudud ye rakibu hudud magale motani sulu sila asambe duru badum mafi kuli hukuma daga to asli hadu kulu kutufi ke makaje ana mai ndike sukura na imani.
شكرا. رسالة طويلة وقوي جاء الليلة من ماما ماريا نمبر 1 هاي راديو. صباح النور.
يا ابو جاز جونيور من واو.
ابو جاز جونيور ارفع صوتك شوية تفضل.
بس تحياتي لك وتحية لكل الناس اللي يسمعون هذا الصباح في برنامج الدردشة الصباحية، وتحية خاصة كمان للشيخ مباب وابو جاز سينيا وكل الناس بالذات ماما ميري هناك. نحن أزبانا طوال كويسين ما فيها حاجة بطال وأنا شكرا.
شكرا لك أبو جاز جونيور من واو راديو. نعم صباح النور.
باتيستا مانو من نياكوري.
اتفضل.
الليلة أنا 3 بدري لكن جيت لقيت إنه الشارع فاضي، شارع ما مقفل، الناس اللي ورا ما يشيلوا هم.
الليلة ما في محكمة، حيجروا لحد يوم الجمعة.
كده شارع لقيته فاضي. صباح الخير ليك وصباح الخير لكل الستاف بتاعكم في هاي راديو في يوم الليلة، وصباح الخير لكل الأصدقاء بتاع برنامج دون الصباحي دردشة الصباحية على رأسهم سلطان جوزيف وسلطانة ماما ماريا الثلاثة قدامي من الخط، والمستمعين أكثر من متصلين، كل مستمع أكتب اسم دردشة صباحية في محله فوقه، أنا بقول لهم صباح الخير عليكم. والأخير بمشي لكل 10 ولايات ديل و3 مناطق الإدارية وقيامات وحكومات بتاعه كله. يعني نتمنى ربنا يشفيهم ويرفعهم فوق، والفقدوا ناس 24 ساعة بدأ نقول ربه هكذا يكون اسم رب مبارك. أتمنى إنه يوم يكون سعيدا للناس وكل زور ربنا يرزقه حتى يلقى بتاع كيسان يعيش ولا سنة يجيبوا لأولاده في البيت. ما عندنا حاجة جذبانة في قرية كويسين وأنا مركته وماشي للشغل، ونتمنى يوم سعيد وأن يكونوا عايشون على الوطن جميل. شكرا.
Gracias لك باتيستا. راديو.
Hello.
يس.
صباح الخير أكيد.
صباح النور.
وزاتني معكم.
نعم تفضل.
أقول لأخوي خير تحية بتاعك وصل لأولياء خير. هذا هاي ما توكلنا خدمات هاي ترى ممكن بتاعنا ما ميري هذا شهر نمبر 1 أنا بقول له مبروك ما بيجاتوا هدية. سلطان جوزيف يعني ما أنا مرة لقيت الآن معلوم جوزيف بتاع ملكي بتاع لو كفى. أسقط هناك وجوزيف ما جوك وكشوف بتاع الكلام كله. يعني بل الناس ما فيش ما في حاجة مثال بس عندي ما عندنا ترى حاجة بشيء بس عن حاجة الفكرة في الدولة زمان يوم ياو قرار تيجي حياة فايد بكرة جيبوه فايد جيبوه لا هذا 200 كلام ده بيمشي. هسه كان ده من كم زمان كم اي جي بي كان غيره كم governor central bank غيره كم governors كم ministers كم commissioners كم غيره really good to put solution. لازم يجوا solution ده. لازم كانوا جايين فالسا براها. أو جار بين كانوا يا problem بعدين هو يحل solution. After you can't change the entire government without knowing that you are the problem. You are looking for solution without knowing that you are the cause of the problem. Tani na hita jibu zone. Moja fursa sana kida. Baada kama vile ateso. Halo ishtaka kwa sio loma ishtaka. Ze governor yabu gerite kusuma governor rabi mojo chalo barra. Ogna kai ama togo okaja mo shuruta ocho mashoki ni hukuma bicho lisha maji hapo le mamu shu bara shiru bara tek na bara ko gara tu shugina ofisi ya heka ta shiru bara le o bitelo bija yaki nesa to team bito abishaka no asa bidiliba haja na der minu asa shiru bara teba adi la jebude o indu feta ko kun mitel kalo bishaka ma bes biakul bil kita bara mo sekila mo le bara ta kaita shiru bara asa le for solution be mara dola de ma biskete ta dadon au tenda be kun mafi asan aidol ki jebu o mo baro ba mushiru bara mikel tipta ba mushiru le dola de tabel bote barra sen ya kef le dola to ka bikul bishika ni ba shahran kan fajur wa be stakul aja mushi ko ala sima midal kan do jibu zo dere bodu gurus do shiru bara bodu makafa te makafa ita mushiru ko makafa ita marka shiru shabi ya bu ta ba men mushishiya men du adira men madaris men du shaware tipta wori makafa le lata shiru bara makafa tu ta shiru usada shekhan makafa do balga mikel kada makafi hizo bodi ka bishiru zol bar godi makafa bito uma ishaka lena zaman kalam zede fuwe ya jamaa kalam zede maafa shukran salam alaikum
wa alaikum assalam. ده الرأي بتاعه هناك من أبو جاز. راديو. صباح النور. بولينو جورجي تفضل ارفع صوتك تليفونك صوته نازل هناك ولا دي الشبكة؟ جورج تليفونك امين صوتك تعب شديد ممكن ترجع تاني وتتصل علينا. راديو.
الو راديو.
يس.
صباح الخير.
صباح النور. منو معنا؟
الحمد لله معك ما جانسون من اري جانسون تمام.
تفضل.
شكرا لماما ماريا طبعا هو فقط لنا الاستوديو مع بعد سوله تانين مع بعدين بعدين بيجي لنا فواره في اري جانسون هنا ما فوق مشكله حاجات كان في جنوب السودان اللي كان قال كلي ونسو ما في زمن زاد الدير كلي ونسو طبعا باجناس بونسو بكالاسو باجناس بونسو ما بكالاسو بواجهل بس طبعا حاجات كتير البونسو ده حاجات ما كان بروح لغورا بنايا بار الناس جنوب السودان
لكن الكثير الناس بعرف قال ما طبعا في 10 ولايات 3 administrative area الناس اللي جاوا بيجيبوا غير جاوا بيجيبوا ديل عمر يا ما أقرأ ما في باقي نلاقرا في سيسين الكبارين نلاقرا في باقي نلاقرا ما أعرف لكن هم نلاقرا لكن الناس اللي جاوا أنا ما أعرف أنا بيو اللي كان جابوا شو أنا ما بعرف طبعا ديل حاجات نزادوا بس دول بكون بالفوق قال غير لنا زول الكويس أو جيب لنا زول البطال جيب لنا زول الكويس ما في حاجة فوق طبعا هذا زي ما فوق هذا الزول بكون فوق جيل باول شنو في إلكترون كويس إلكترون ده بيجيب لنا حاجة كويس لكن أنا بعرف ما في حاجة فوق بس ما في حرب يا ترى كذا ده سجل أنا يرجع قبنا عندنا مشكلة لا كويس شكرا
alright شكرا لك ده عليكم برضه راديو
أنا لو كل جم قدلي
نعم تفضل
صباح الخير لك في الاستديو ولأول متصل ولدقيق مبابينك ولكل المتصلين أنا أصبحنا كويسين هنا ما خواجة وأنا جاي نقول ماما ماريا تجيب من رواية لكن مريا قالت تجاري 50% ما بتقدر حتى 30% ما قدرت عليه يلا أنا دير ودي إنها رأي تاعي أنا دير ودي نبذة تسيد لنا طلعينهم جديد لأن دير ودي رسالة تاعي لهم جيتوا في المركب يا ريت انتم ما تبدأوا ثاني ببلان جديد اللي تجيبوا ده أنا كان بتوقع البرنامج اللي كان زول الجديد ده عملوا ده بدأ من هناك وامشي قدام في برنامج الراديو الموجود عملوا برنامج رجع أسيت ولاية في ولاية التجيبار ده أنا كان دايرين من بدأ سجن برنامج يمشي قدام ناس البيو حاجات ولاية ده لي غفرنر الجديد اللي جابوا عادل ده اللي يبدأ من النقطة دي أنا دايرين ناس ما يتجدها حاجة وصلوا الناس مني يبيو حاجات ولاية ورسالة ثانية بدأت لي بمشي للدلتا سيتي كانسل يومين ده أنا ما أعرف ما قاعدين يتابع ما يبي كمان سيدا 10,000 إلى بتاعنا هنا وما يتكرر ناس الشركات كل يوم كل يوم بيزيدوا أصلا من 14,000 على 18,000 17,000 بيزيدوا كل يوم يعني لو كان بيمشي كمان بزيادة تانية أنا ما أروح أسبب في زيادة دي شنو ولكن لاحظنا دولار جنيه دولار جنيه والشركات دي يزيدوا أنا ما أعرف أسبب ليش لو كان الناس اللي دخلوا كده أعرف أسبب ليش وآخر رسالة بيمشي لأسفل الحركة الشعبية أو الحزب الحاكم انتوا كان بيجيبوا زول جديد مثل جمهورية ما في لي رأي هذا كلي رأي على العدالة في ولايات دي ما ممكن ما عندهم كل نفس الكاونتي واحد ما في كاونتي ذاته زي في سجل الكوتوري في 6 كاونتي زينا كان لاحظنا في كاونتي ثانيين ما عملوا حاجة اسمه ولاية دي كل ولا ما موجود سلطة في ولاية لكن الناس عندهم الكاونتي دي كل كده ودي لهم فرصة كمان الماجي ممكن كنا بيجيبوا خدمات من زول الثاني الجاي انا بقول كان في ناس الجمهورية اللي هو مستشارين كليا انا قاعد اسيدري دور كده انه دي كده فرصه للكاونت الفلاني ممكن بيجيبوا لنا خدمات جزء ممكن مساعد زي ما انت جبت نظر بيشتغل كده كده ودي فرصه للناس الفلاني عشان بعد يوجد الناس عندهم فرصه عشان ما يكون في روتين في الشغل شكرا جزيلا
شكرا ما يكون في روتين في الشغل او يكون في ريسايكلينج بتاع نفس الاوجه او الوش بتاع نفس الناس يعني اللي يرجعوا في المناصب ده كلام بتاع لو كل جاي هناك من جوبا نمشي لفاصل إعلاني ومنه حنيجي نواصل.
Okay, the bill is here.
Oh, I don't have enough money on my Momo account, but hold on.
How did you do that?
Yeah, I took more money from my bank account.
I have been in this situation many times.
Mata Fekiri, use Momo.
Mata Fekiri kalangurush katifi je. Wala takafu minarami. Mata Fekiri galita kan bedafake. Register and use Momo. Everywhere you go, use Momo.
Just dial *200#.
This is iRadio. When contributing to a topic on the radio, please avoid statements that may incite or promote hate. We encourage constructive points of views and criticisms that aim at providing solutions to problems facing the country. We do not want rumor-mongering or information that is regarded as hearsays. We advocate for messages of peace and unity among the people of South Sudan. This is iRadio, your eye on South Sudan.
مرحبا بك مرة ثانية مستمع راديو نواصل بفقرة ريزيدنس ريبورت اي راديو. حلو اي راديو. مرجع ثاني واتصل علينا على ارقامنا 11 و22 986 986 radio. Yes. طبعا نور منو معنا؟ أنا منو؟
جونسون من قنبو.
جونسون اتفضل.
ايه انا بشكر ربنا اصلا كم بتاعتك علينا في اي راديو بس انا عندي ركز واحد انا عندي ريكوست انا بأسأل الحكومة بتاعت الستيت وانا بأسأل سيتي كونسل منجرة تسيكا اللي جو من مطار يرواتي كونيلو في مينستري كده حكومة كده حاجة حكومة ده انا تجنوب وكل الناس اللي جا من دول تانيين كان جا بتيار هم بيجي طالع من مطار تسيكا ده منجرة تسيكا وساكا زان كله من إلا يكتب في سيكا أو بيسا تكو في الجنة سيكا ده منجرة تسيكا فأنا أسأل الحكومة كده منعينا سيكا ده كويس كان بيجا هنا واسكارين كتبوا شنو سيكا تمتازة كده في سنة دي ده ريكوست بتاعي لحكومة تا تسيت وحكومة أو تا لناس تا سيتي كونسل تبس كلام در كلام ولا كده بعرف كل
alright شكرا لك راديو. منو معنا؟ رجع تاني واتصل علينا واقدم تعليق بتاعك راديو. برضو فقدناك في الخط، اتصل علينا تاني. عندنا حوالي 4 جاي ل 3 دقائق لرأس الساعة، بعد شي نيوز هيدلاينز. راديو.
الو يا راديو.
يس.
معك صادر من حيترو.
تفضل.
والله شكرا لربنا عشان اصبحنا كويس ما فاجأ بطل. انا طبعا رايت طبعا من جنوب السودان يعني اختاروا عملوا مثلا دولة بقى الصيد القيمة بتاعه. حاجة تانية أنا انتخبنا دولة ثانيا التعيينات الرئيس بيعينوا ما بطلوا كويس، لكن احنا دايرين نغرر بنفوس أنا دايرين نعين لنا يعني رئيس بطريقة الكويس، يعني يحكم الدولة يحكم الشعب ويحكم كله دول الجار. يعني حاجة اللي حصل على أمامنا أنهم متواجهين دايرين انتخابات، عشان الانتخابات من الرئيس قاعد ما ينتخبوا، انتخبنا الدولة. وأنا بنشكر طبعا الحكم حتى حاليا حكم عسكرية ما بطل، لكن كل ما يكون في انتخاب بيساعد الشعب وبيساعد كل مجتمع الدولة وشغل بيكون على قيمة الذات. حتى النواب الكثير ممكن يكون ينقصوها، دي حاجة ممكن يعمل شغل بتاع في الدولة. وشكرا.
شكرا. انتخابات، هو بيتكلم في الموضوع بتاع الانتخابات. راديو.
Emmanuel, Joseph Akile, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Joseph. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. My regard to you in the studio and my regard to all of them, all of South Sudan. My brother, I have small complaint to our brothers, regular callers and sisters. When we call, we talk on the issues, affairs of the country, something related people welfare. But there is a suggestion. If you suggest a word that can take you 4 minutes or 3, there is a big complaint from others. And we talk at the same issues. And somebody takes 3 minutes. It is because of suggestion, which is suggested. And other caller came in later. Why you allow people to talk much? And later on when he's...
Yes, Joseph. Oh, معلش Joseph, we lost you there on the line. He was trying to make a point, but you can still get back to us. Hi, Radio. Hello, Radio.
Yes, Emmanuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Tagwanz Madina Junub.
Welcome.
Ana fi Jebel Timan. Ana bisa zones kida and umbara na kanja min shari nimule. Min nimule lahadi nisitu we counted almost 32 roadblocks. With the 32 roadblocks ulu guo gifu arban gisilu fogo hajar. Ana hajat de sabab tazidu asahar ta hajat fisu. Ana kan bi wonu sule IGP wala le reis bidana
bohabade ki tiri zeriki kutule shunu
CDF ta jesh
ya CDF ta jesh bohabade ki tiri zeriki kutule shunu because ajade yani kan bi shilu gurus min so again it kayel kan de ajata business ge jibu ushilu gurusat minni fi nimule la hadi tenisitu almost at 2 boaba bara min tenisitu de manati kanta idu tenisitu kul bitala almost at 4
abi ara de trucks arabat al trucks wala de basat
arabat kande basat wala de trucks kul su ken kul go kifugi silu fogo ajat they take things I was ana witness because mbaran jamin na so ajat zere masa ajat zere gi jibu suma batale do wala number 2 ya Emmanuel yani foreigners algija min jo arabat de mbare na jama foreigners dugu kitim dugu mini fi hududi na dugu kitim lakini lisa gisi lumin mon 30,000 fi ay mahal jama bi kilem galon imon migration officers gisi lu 30,000 min jama del diga na mabar sabab alu amul mo visa waiving de sabab to disunu kanda zolta immigration ita ay dugu kitim fogo passport zol kan foreigner. What is the purpose of taking money from this kind of person? Ajide lana mambo ta kulu kan bega gisi silu guru zede is better yel nasri jawara kanta visa de sorat tel dafa guru so mon once because guru sala sana ga no gisi lu umbare ka ena ta gisi lu de yani satu ma gisi lu be receipt there is no receipt godi guru ze magida kal fu fi kaza ta akuma so haja al gasel fisike ni da jama ajide ma quiz kan zol ku smale please amul haja quiz alma be kara busuma ta dola kenna kuni do patriotism kasat Sudanese because hajal na gamul le foreigners ke jare yani guwodi suma tan batal barna as you are treating foreigner arab kamangal kantara belta zoltani ta kamam kun foreigner indu bed magalo ma indu bed jama kelna let's be patriotic to this nation and can stop silu gurus mini businessmen and even from our foreigners otherwise another car will be let another with their own hand. Thank you Emmanuel.
All right, thank you رسالة بتاعه هنا قوية جاي وده في موضوع بتاع ما نسيب في استخدام بتاع أو سلوك بتاعنا ما يكون كعب أمام أو تجاه بتاع الأجانب أو الفورنس وخاصة في المناطق الحدودية أو في زمن دخولهم للبلاد بيدي سمع كعب عن جنوب السودان. راديو أريتانو اتصل. راديو.
Akile, good morning.
Yes, continue Joseph. Be brief please.
The issue of network, what I want to say there, my brother, others, they want to be hungry when others talk much. And it is the same suggestion. It is just also because you want to complain something from the resident authority. But if we quarrel in the top shows, we become hungry. That culture is not better. We supposed to learn ways of how to speak it. Don't be hungry with your brother because of the suggestion of things related with all of us. So I want to advise our regular callers. We are brothers and sisters.
Right.
Let us know if somebody suggests a big talk, it is because of all of us. Not his all problem.
All right, thank you, Joseph. We're going to have to leave it there because it's now time for news headlines.
This is iRadio.
The iRadio.
Your eye on South Sudan.
Right, it's now 27 minutes to the top of the hour. It's now time for news headlines, and I'm joined live in the studio by Lasuba Memo. Good morning, Lasuba. What do we have today?
Well, good morning, Emmanuel. Joseph Akile. What we have, the Vice President and Chair of the Service Cluster, Josephine Lagu-Yanga, has unveiled a nationwide biometric registration and public service headcount. South Sudan has joined global telecommunication regulators and policymakers at the World Telecommunication Development Conference 2025 in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Right.
And President Samia Suluhu Hassan has acknowledged that her country's image for stability has been stained by the unrest that hit the East African nation during last month's heavily disputed elections.
Right.
This and many more.
Thank you very much للسوبر ميمو. ده عناوين الأخبار. خليك قريب من الراديو بتاعك وبتلقى التفاصيل في رأس الساعة. Let's go for this short break and we'll be right back. Don't touch your dial. Good morning. Right, welcome back from the news headlines. You're still listening to the live broadcast of the Dawn program here on iRadio. Now let's talk about the ongoing 5th edition of Derrick Cultural Festival, where the Minister of General Education and Instruction says South Sudanese and the country in general has actually established itself as one of the Africa's leaders in women's political participation, but then warned that these gains are actually threatened by deep-seated economic exclusion and also traditional prejudices here in South Sudan, and this goes back to our cultures. Now, speaking at the festival at the University of Juba on Monday, Dr. Kuyok Abol Kuyok also highlighted remarkable progress made since independence, noting that it now actually ranks among the top 3 African nations, that is after Rwanda and Uganda, for women's representation in public life. He also pointed out the country's currently is actually hosting or having 2 vice presidents, have the Speaker of the National Assembly, First Deputy Speaker of the Council of States, and a number of women serving as cabinet members, and also who served as governors since 2005, and this is all underpinned by a constitutional mandate for a 35% gender quota in public office. So let's listen to Kuyok, going back to the history of women's contribution to this country.
It is a profound honor and privilege to give a lecture on women's movement in South Sudan in this edition of Derrick Cultural Festival at the University of Juba. However, allow me to say this about the man whose work we are celebrating this evening. I knew Derrick Alfred and his work. He was a renowned South Sudanese artist, playwright, and intellectual, whose creative work and critical thinking left a lasting mark on the nation's cultural landscape. A visionary of his time, Derrick strongly believed that culture could serve as both a unifying and a transformative force for South Sudan, a means to bridge the generational divide between this country's ancient traditions and contemporary identity. Thus, his mission statement for the Derrick Cultural Festival centered on building bridges to connect generations of ancient and contemporary South Sudan. He envisioned a public platform where South Sudanese could engage in discussions about their heritage, thereby strengthening national identity and restoring pride in the nation's rich and diverse cultural traditions. With this vision, Derrick and a network of South Sudanese intellectuals, artists, and cultural advocates founded the Derrick Cultural Festival, primarily designed as a celebration of the art, culture, and knowledge. The festival's foundational objectives were twofold. One, initiate and promote historical research, cultural journalism, and related cultural preservation activities. And secondly, to foster a spirit of nationalism and unity among South Sudan's diverse ethnic communities as a part of efforts to rebuild the new nation's social fabric and global image. Through these objectives, the festival positions culture as a tool for peace building and nation building. It is monthly forums, exhibitions, and research initiatives create safe spaces for dialogue and reflection, enabling South Sudanese to rediscover shared values, bridge divisions, and imagine a common culture. In line with this objective, today I will talk to you about women's movement in South Sudan. South Sudan historically boasts a handful of prominent women most notably Abudok. Abudok was the 8th Rath of the Shulu kingdom. We had Zainab Keden, a Bari woman warrior, and there was Queen Ikang. Queen Ikang, the first Letuka female monarch. The traditional leaders rose to the pinnacle of their societies in the 17th and 20th centuries respectively. Let me pause a little bit to offer brief biographical accounts of these female leaders. Abudok, as I said, through her reign of the Shulu kingdom, she helped to found Fashoda, the seat of the ancient kingdom. Abudok, as you all know, in our society, we have this hierarchy where women will not be recognized. So what happened was, when she took over the kingdom, the Shulu opposed her reign, and she had 2 brothers, and these brothers were very young. And what she did was that she dressed them like female, so that the people would not recognize that. And as they grew, one of them later became Rath, because the opposition to her kingdom was just so fierce that they could not allow her. So she became a regent. A regent is like somebody who helps the king to rule. And her brother later, her brother's son was the Rath that actually built Fashoda, and he ruled for 2 decades. So that is a big contribution that the woman did in order to promote her society. If you talked about Zainab Kiden was a Bari woman that actually mobilized the Baris to rise against the Ansar. So when the Turco-Egyptian government was established here, first they had the post in Kondokoro. From Kondokoro, Amin Basha moved it to Lado, and then of course, as we all know, Amin Basha later had to relocate the entire town, the entire Lado, to Uganda as they fled the Mahdi's incursion coming from the north. So the Mahdi's decided to establish their headquarters in Rajaf West, where you have the police station today. And of course, they were conducting slavery. This is 1880 something, 1889, 1890. So by 1891, he then decided to mobilize the Baris. He mobilized the Baris, and they rose against the Ansar, and in fact, they defeated the Ansar. So the Ansar had to run away and establish themselves in Bor. And they took 1 year, and they came back in 1892, where they took over Rajaf, and from there, of course, they managed to get Kiden, and she was beheaded. And her husband was one of the people taken to Khartoum as a slave. So they ruled in Rajaf from 1892 until the French came. This place was liberated by the French before the British came. The French came in 1897, and that was the Battle of Rajaf in 1897 in Rajaf. And of course, this area was a part of Lado Enclave until 1910, when the King of Belgium died, and of course, then of course it reverted to the British rule. The British were in a place not far from Gardas village, just north of Dombe, monitoring what was happening here. So Ikang died in 1936. She was in fact she was a Lokoya, married to the king of the Tuga, and she took over as a queen, and she's one of the most successful, formidable queens or traditional rulers in the Lutuka's history. One of the Munyumajis that she named at the first came the same year with probably was Professor Rock 1969 with Silver Berberi. They joined 1969, and the other girls that later came from Uganda, like our current vice president. So Victoria was also instrumental in her way, because after she finished her studies, she actually joined the parliament. She was the first South Sudanese woman to join the parliament in Khartoum, because Numeri took power in 1969, and he had a parliament that was appointed in 1971 to pass the first permanent constitution of Sudan, and Victoria joined that. Later on, Victoria, Mary Basuni, and Rachel Ayan Garang, William Garang, they were elected to the first parliament here in 1973. So they were our first female representative in the regional parliament. They distinguished themselves as representatives in the regional assembly, the parliament for the southern region. In their own ways, these remarkable women endeavored to break colossal gender barriers and stereotypes. So women today relatively enjoy improved positions in South Sudan as vice presidents. We have 2 vice presidents, a speaker of the National Assembly, governors, cabinet ministers, parliamentarians, and civil servants, a few university professors, and senior officers in the army and organized forces. Now, what were the milestones, achievements? You could talk about, of course, I mentioned the liberation struggle, and although the Sudanese women gained suffrage, suffrage means the right to vote in political elections. So the Sudanese women, the first time they were allowed to vote was 1965, after the October Revolution. That is when the Sudanese government decided that, okay, let us allow the women to vote. And people like Fatma Muhammad Ibrahim, she was elected that year to go to the parliament. So, but it was only in 1973 that our women were able to go to parliament. As I mentioned, the three of them here in Juba. Later on, there were, of course, people like Mary Adwok, remember Adwok, who also came when the provinces were created. She also came. She also went to parliament, I think, in Khartoum. South Sudanese women were instrumental during the liberation wars. As I talk about Auntie Deborah Gergum, but of course we all remember famously Katiba Banat in the SPLA. Despite their sacrifices, their contributions were often marginalized in official narratives. But since 2005, in Abacha peace talks, women mobilized to influence peace negotiations, ensuring that their positions were recognized and that there was a gender-sensitive provisions. Women delegates were signatories to the peace agreement. So, for example, during the comprehensive peace agreement negotiations, SPLM raised the idea of 25% representation of women in public offices, but the NCP rejected that. They rejected it. But of course, these women did not stop there. After the CPA after the CPA laid the foundation for gender inclusion in governance. At independence in 2011, the transition constitution reaffirmed a 25% quota for women in political and public offices. However, patriarchal norms and weak enforcement slowed progress. Today, we have 100. Those of the Jorgada, there are 169 members of parliament in a house of 550 members. As I said, we have 2 vice presidents. We have a speaker of National Assembly, who actually constitutionally is the 3rd power in the country. We have a deputy speaker in the Council of the States, the upper house of the parliament. We have cabinet members. Women serve as governors in several states. In terms of women representation in public life, South Sudan is almost the 3rd in Africa after Rwanda and Uganda. This is a big milestone achievement. Also, we have had some successes in terms of legislation. So, we have South Sudan's Women Charter 2024. There is the Anti-GBV Bill 2023. There is also the Women Enterprise Development Fund Bill 2024. And of course, we have rectified what we call the Maputo Protocol, reinforcing its commitments to gender equality. Now, so the focus areas that we have is, I think, the question of representation of women in public offices, so political participation and leadership, advocacy for full implementation of the 35% quota across all government levels, and sectors, ensuring women voices in constitution making and elections. Peace building and security, ending gender-based violence, affecting 65% of women in conflict zones. Efforts focus on prevention of survivor support and legal reforms. Economic empowerment. Despite making up over 60% of the cultural workforce, women own less than 15% of the productive land due to discriminatory inheritance laws. Initiatives such as the village savings groups and vocational training aim to reduce poverty and dependency. Education and capacity building, leadership training, conflict mediation, and advocacy programs to strengthen women's roles in governance, with only 19% literacy among women aged 15 plus. Now, what strategies do we need to take to address these issues? What strategies and tactics employed by women to attain the status in public life? First and most importantly is activism. And I'm happy that Victoria Gada describes herself as an activist. We all have to be activists. So activism, direct lobbying and advocacy, enforcement of affirmative action, in the recognition of the role women played in the liberation struggle. The SPLM during the Machakos peace talks, as I said in Kenya, championed affirmative action representation for women. This was initially rejected by the National Congress Party, the ruling party in Khartoum. However, after the conclusion of the CPA, the SPLM revisited the issue, and a 25% women representation in public office was attained in the constitution. And following the independence of South Sudan, President Salva Kiir Mayardit, as the chairperson of the SPLM, enshrined the women representation and actually pushed it to 35%. The president further ensured that women actually took their places in the cabinet and in the parliament. Campaigns focused on ensuring the compliance with 35%, because as I said, we have resistance. There is resistance to these issues. The other thing that I think we need to do is networking and coalition building is another tactic women can use to attain equity in society. Thus, platforms like the New Sudan Women Federation, the Sudanese Women Association, SWAN, strengthen advocacy efforts and partnership. International actors provide funding and technical support. Now, what are the challenges for all these things? The challenges are economic exclusion. We have some achievements in terms of women representation in public life. I think we can say that, as I said, we are almost a third in the whole of the continent. But of course, in terms of economic power, women are experiencing exclusion. So although women representation in the public office has considerably witnessed improvement, as described above, it is evident that women are excluded in the economic sphere. So that is one thing. The other issue is entrenched prejudices. So custom and tradition tend to override the laws that we have legislated. Harmful gender stereotypes limit both men and women equality. Practices such as sexism and misogyny, hatred, hostility, and prejudice against women, and early marriage stereotypes like marriage circuit, just a woman, undermine women's leadership. Lack of support and confidence, displacement. Many women lack family support and self-confidence, compounded by intergender rivalry and jealousy. So these are some of the issues I think that we are encountering, hampering our success. I'm going to conclude very soon. We also had the issue of literacy as I talk about education. So we have done some progress in terms of widening access to education in this country since 2005. Before the government of South Sudan came here, we only had 300,000 children in schools. Today, we have pushed that almost 10 times. And if you look at primary education, there is almost gender parity in primary education. So, and in fact, in some states, like Northern Baragazal, amazingly, Northern Baragazal and Western Equatoria, you find more girls than boys in primary school. So it's 51% girls and 49% boys in this particular two states. But the problem is when they transit to secondary education, we experience a huge dropout for girls when they go to secondary education. So only 18% of girls that start school today would finish their secondary education, which is compulsory education. Only 80% of these girls that would start the school today. So that is an issue, and it goes back to the things we've talked about. For example, our perceptions about girls. You know, they are there to get as cattle. They are there to be married. So if I have got 3 children, two boys and 1 girl, I would prioritize the education of the boys, because I know the girl is going to go away. So this kind of perception, I think we need to change it. So as I want to conclude, I want to say this. I think the most important thing we need to do is activism. All of us, we have to be activists. So there is a call for action. In conclusion, women's movement in South Sudan has evolved. As I said, has evolved from a pre-colonial and anti-colonial resistance to a contemporary force that advocated for political representation, economic opportunities, and an end to gender-based violence. South Sudan's women's movement that has made remarkable strides, but systemic barriers, persist. Strengthening enforcement of gender affirmative action measures, investing in education and economic empowerment, and fostering inclusive governance are critical to sustaining progress. This can only be achieved through sustained activism. And I want to recommend something here. There is a Nigerian writer called Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She wrote a book in 2013. And the book title is We Should All Be Feminists. We should all be, and this is actually, it's like an essay. And I really want all of you to read it. So as Adichie said, Adichie defined a feminist as anyone, not only female, anyone who believes in the gender equality and advocates for it. For her, feminism is not about hating men, but about dismantling a hierarchy that disadvantages women. By and large, in South Sudan, women's place in public life was perceived as inconsistent with their gender roles. However, through the enthusiasm of a few women I talked about, I mentioned them, they are breaking gender ceiling in public life. They use their influential positions to change or transform societal perceptions about the role of women in public life. All these gains could be lost if women relent.
ده كان هناك الدكتور كويوك أبول كويوك وزير التعليم العام، وهو بيتكلم في النسخة الخامسة لمهرجان ديريك الثقافي اللي كان اللي لسه متواصل هنا في جوبا في الأسبوع ده، وهو كان بيتكلم في جامعة جوبا أول امبارح، وزميل بتاعي كونغ بال تشانغ ومايكل دانيال هم كانوا موجودين هناك. وطبعا هناك سمعنا ويتكلم عن تاريخ بتاعت النساء، كيف هم شاركوا في الصراع في البلاد ومن أجل الدفاع عن حقوق بتاع جنوب السودان، وكمان الأدوار المختلفة اللي هم ليبوا فيه. وهو بدأ هناك يتكلم من تاريخ بتاعت مملكة بتاع تشولو، وكمان هي تكلمت في الاستوائية الوسطى وكمان في شرق الاستوائية، وجاب كلام بتاعه حتى للأدوار بتاع زمن بتاع اتفاقية أديس أبابا بتاع سنة 1972، مشاركة بتاع النسوان الجنوبيين في البرلمان، وكمان برضو مشاركة بتاعهم حاليا في في المستويات المختلفة في الحكومة وحتى في مجال بتاع التعليم حاليا. وكمان هو يتكلم في كيف إنه النساء شاركوا بأدوارهم المختلفة. بجبنا لثواني قليلة رأس الساعة بعد شو الأخبار باللغة الإنجليزية مع الزميل السوبر منضم له في الساعة الثانية اللي فيه حنرفع المكالمات. صباح الخير.
iRadio.